I think I've always believed that like for you to start delegating, the easiest one to delegate would be the ones that are like repetitive tasks.
Repetitive, time
Yeah,
consuming.
time consuming,
Right.
repetitive because you probably already know how it's supposed to go, and you can start documenting and then delegate it to
Mm-hmm.
someone.
Mm-hmm.
Delegating it to someone, but it people also need to figure out it also need to know that it's not just there are two ways to go about it, right? There are two ways to go about automating repetitive task. Either you delegate it to someone so that they can do it, and they're going to be responsible for that. The other way to go about it is use automation. So,
Right.
how do you recommend startups in how they should start automating their tasks?
Penny, there are a lot of simple tools to use. They're out in the
Mm-hmm.
market. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for example, we have different types of CRM. So, one of the famous CRMs would be HubSpot. We also have
Yeah.
like ClickUp, wherein we do the task management, and then just you also use like a central communication tool. Just for example,
Mm-hmm.
Slack, and others use what Skype or whatever communication tools are
Oh,
available.
Skype.
Skype.
That's too old, but anyway,
Just showed your
I've
age, Don.
experienced using Skype as a way of communicating with
Same.
not just with your internal team, but with the clients too.
Mm. Yeah.
You know
But
the nostalgia of a Skype call. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, quack,
so
quack.
it's
That
too
was
old,
so
but they know
far
my age
from what
already.
Skype sounds like. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Which one
all
was
three
it?
of us have used Skype. Yeah,
The
but
nostalgia of the trauma when a Skype call comes in.
but going sorry, sorry for cutting you off, Don. Just Skype. But you were mentioning Skype for communication purposes, right? So
Mhm.
can you go back to
Yeah,
what
so
you were
now we're
saying?
using Slack. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the modern tool now for communication. It's really good to have these tools, and this will save us a lot of time, and
Mm-hmm.
we can actually focus on other things that are more important, like growth of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So these, in the long run, if you're looking at cost, others might think
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, it's like too costly to sign up
Yeah.
and buy a seat for each of the tools, but in the long run they're really cost effective. It's because time saved is equal to focus on strategy, which really pays off big time.
My thoughts regarding whether it's free, whether you go for, because a
Hmm.
lot of apps have free versions, right?
Yeah.
Like most of them
Mhm.
have it, and it's part of
Hmm.
it's a, for the lack of the better term,
It's
a come
adoption.
on.
It's adoption. It's
Yeah.
upsell.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I just
And I
want to
think
tell as well.
go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I remember when I was still handling sales before, we tried not to like really sign up for any tools yet, but I mean we were
Yeah.
able to make use of those tools for free. um,
Yes.
and then we have like free version wherein we can still benefit from it, but in the long run, if you want to have like more efficiency and they'd like to have more features to be used, and probably that's the time wherein we need to really think of signing up.
Yeah.
As long as you
So
can
the
see
one,
value for money. As long as you can
yes.
see value for money. See the hard. I know the hardest thing is for people. Why do I need to spend $20 a month for something?
Mm-hmm.
When you have the clunkier like Excel, like the Excel. We can do Excel timesheets rather than a CRM, and then eventually you'll realize that and that's the and those are usually still doing those boring old Excel timesheets. Click up.
Oh my God, Francis, stop it with the ads. Like,
I don't know.
did
No,
you
but
binge watch YouTube last night and you're just
uh,
all of the ads
well,
are just in your head
unfortunately,
right now?
unfortunately that's the reason why I'm probably sold. I'm about to be sold on taking the premium YouTube version so I can stop watching the
I
ads.
know,
But no,
right?
but you do have a point, right? Like, people will always like it's what do you call this? Like, people will always try to stick to what they know.
Mm,
And so even that hurdle of trying to use technology or to use these apps, they would have to have an actual business need for them to use the app and for them to get out of their Excel sheet and
Yeah.
figure out and see that, okay, this app is gonna work better for us. It has all the bells and whistles. It
Yes.
actually now, like for example, for HubSpot, for us, it's not just for sales, it's not just for the CRM, it's also for marketing, it's also for ops, it's also for finance, so everyone knows where like the status of the client, right? Just the Excel file, mind you, I'm not a fan of Google Docs in a sense of like putting all of the documenting like processes there, because I cannot find anything in Google Docs. But yeah, it does streamline
The
things in a
file
sense
management
of,
system is sucks. Yeah.
yeah, because everyone can collaborate. Like I think that's a big part of the softwares that we're using right now. ClickUp, you can collaborate with people. HubSpot, you can collaborate with people as well. Slack, like of course, right?
Of
Of course,
course.
it's a communication tool. Of course, you're
Right.
able to talk to people. But yeah,
Yeah, but just to add to that, just the tiniest bit. Even then, the challenges, adoption. Wait, no, cost. See, regardless of what, if sometimes you can see the value of it, but it's money out of the pocket. It's money
Yeah.
out of your pocket, and that hurts sometimes to do, especially if you're not rolling in, if you're not rolling in money. If you're it's hard to, you're watching everything that flows out, right? Be adoption, that sometimes you're like, guys, let's do this, and it's going to cost a bit, but it's going to make us so efficient, and then like out of 50 people in your organization, only 5 people are really really using it. Like, that hurts
That has
too.
happened to us.
Right.
Yeah, that hurts too. So like, why?
Yeah.
Why did we do all of this? And you say, oh, we still use Messenger because we find it more effective. Like, god damn it.
Right. And I remember you
Yeah.
guys always
Yeah,
reminding the
we
team
still use
to.
Messenger, right, Francis, for work stuff. I'm kidding. But
Bye.
you do have a point there. I think one tip that I can give in terms of adoption for tech is you need to demo it for everyone, and actually someone has to kind of lead the adoption for it. And when I say lead the adoption for it, find out how to get the demo, have some rules on how everyone is going to use it, be the point person, and then also look at the adoption, like probably a month after, 2 months after, just so we know that everyone is actually doing it. I think previously our weakness was that, okay, here you go. It's like I felt that it speaks for itself. Just use it, like and it doesn't happen that way. Like software adoption doesn't happen that way. So that's my tip on that.
Yeah, and actually, I agree to that, Penny, because I remember you always, reminding the team to use a new tool that we have just purchased. Basically, it can also be part of the onboarding. So once you assign a person to train the rest of the internal team, for example, and then once a new person comes in, then that person will also train during the onboarding. So at the onset of their relationship with Virtua, they know what is expected in terms of use of these tools.
That's actually a very, very good point. I think if you do not include it in onboarding, most of the time, especially because our team is fully remote, right? Like they're just gonna be lost. They're just gonna be like doing guesswork on how we're actually using these apps. But
And you can tell who's not taking to the onboarding, because like, have you started using this and that? Like, sorry, no, I haven't looked into it yet. Like, they don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah, well, I don't know. Usually, it just hurts. I just keep coming back to delegating. The hardest part is really how to communicate the how to make it trickle down. How that we want to be effective, but there will always be people resistant to change,
Yes.
right? So
But
let's
I
just
think
say
that's the role of us as leaders, is get the buy-in,
change management.
right? Like it's part of it.
So I guess one of the last things I want to make sure I ask from you is, talking about I want you to talk about documenting processes, because we will all say it's the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest thing to keep up and keep updated, right? But I think mostly the hardest thing is to actually start, like between you and I, Penny, right? It took a while to actually get the willpower to say, write it down. But so how can startups create simple and effective SOPs?
Well, I believe, yeah, and I agree that it's really hard to start documenting processes as aside from the will to do so, it's because probably it's driven by you don't know where to start. So if
True.
in a business like outsourcing, our main focus is of course our clients, and for us to be able to start documenting SOPs in a simple manner, we need to create first the customer journey or the client journey mapping. I mean, I've been really
Okay.
highlighting this with Virtua because you know where they start, like from acquisitions, from marketing as a qualified lead or sales qualified lead. Then we know already the touch points. Like, you know, we have several workflows with these departments, and we know how to align the SOPs designed on the real, based on the real needs of our clients. So it makes things simpler, more efficient, and ultimately it has a lot of impact to their experience, to be seamless, because we're basing it from, you know, every touch points that we have from the customer journey map. So that would be, I think, the very first item that they need to really pinpoint, like when do we start communicating with the clients, and then their journey up to the end of like retention and keeping the business with these clients, and even offboarding. So we have to like really process at the end of the relationship. Unfortunately, if it comes to an end, then there are also processes related to that. So if we start off with, you know, from the start of their relationship to the end of their relationship, we can create these SOPs perfectly.
That's actually a very good point, especially because, I mean, our company, like, or any company for that matter, the customers are the most important people. And we want to make sure that their experience is consistent, it's efficient, it's not like they're waiting on something and then internally we're not sure who is supposed to be talking to the customer, right? Or what's the next step. And another thing is, if we don't document the processes for clients, most of the time we will forget something. And now it kind of makes the experience chaotic for the customer. Yeah.
And the last thing we want is to have them experience any form of distress, not especially not chaos, right?
Yes.
And I guess I'll just add it to what we've been telling Don, that you know, we started from word of mouth, which means it was actually the performance that you know, our earlier successes and performances is what's driving clients to recommend us to other people. And it's getting harder to sort of, how do you do, like the copy paste
Yes.
the
template.
experience,
Yeah.
unless you're hopping from one client to another yourself and duplicating the process. So we need to be able to duplicate that success
I agree.
to other people. You know, like I need to transfer myself. So yes,
Like right now with Virtua, how do you think we're addressing that? Like duplicating ourselves. How do you think we're addressing that with Virtua?
Well, for with Virtual, when it comes to sometimes I really to be honest, at first I was overwhelmed with, you know, really working with you, both of you. Like, I'm working with not just one boss, like two CEOs and co-owners, and it's really hard for me to adapt, like, you know, like a single or probably like a single set of skill set of a personality rather, in leading, you know, operations, because I want to continue your legacy your legacy.
legacy. We're
But at the
alive,
same
Don.
time,
We're alive.
You're still alive, Don. Don't kill us off. I absolutely understand what you're saying about because it's word of mouth, right? That's how we grew Virtua. Of course, it's going to be based on the experience that our customers have have had with us, and you want to duplicate that experience to any incoming customer. So I understand the pressure because Francis and I are perfect.
I understand it. That's why what I'm telling you guys is that, even though it's hard to like really have two bosses, but when we started to document, everything,
Yeah.
especially with operation side, and you even like created like, there was a point in time the three of us are talking in a meeting. You are creating and documenting what Francis is saying, what you're saying in terms of SaaS playbook. And then I
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
really learning a lot from you. And then documenting that process, I'm really getting, good points from those documents and apply it to myself. And then when we created the whole playbook for operations, then that's actually a basis wherein I think this is Penny and Francis way, but at the same time, it's not really like putting you um, in or like involving you in every step
Mm-hmm.
in operation. So the documenting is really like a good start off in transferring or like copying you guys to how we operate as a business, as
Because
a
our
company.
way is the only way, Don.
I know, right? I know,
Well,
right?
we personally we think our way is the best, but I'm not sure broadcasting that.
No, I'm kidding. Francis, you saw my face. I was
I
kidding, right?
did.
But thank you so much for
I know.
saying, like, you've never told us this before, but thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
I hope that you were not so like pressured too much about like trying to do that, but I also do understand the goal, right? Because again, word of mouth, these people know us, these people know that what we've given them thus far, and I feel like the operations playbook that you did is actually adding to what we've done before, because there are portions in this playbook that we've never thought of, like business continuity plans. Like previously we've
Yeah.
never, like Francis and I have never thought of that, and just having
We kind of
just
have.
having
We thought we've talked about it in
BCP
various little way.
and
No,
oh,
BCPs in
go
terms of
ahead.
not no, again, yeah, like we know what our BCPs were, power
Mm,
before. Let's do
backups, yeah.
sense. 14 backups, additional laptops, additional battery packs, additional chargers and stuff. And we've communicated that when it was a smaller team, but again, as the team became bigger, I feel like we've either stopped or could not continue to communicate it. That's why, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
we were adding clients and then we were adding more people, and it's just that like there's some people, as much as we want to, could not have actual FaceTime with. So how are you? How are you? When it was you, me, and then three other people, it's easier to, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what you're supposed to do. It's important
Mm-hmm.
to be this and that, and then say whatever to the client, right? But you can do that for three people, but not for 50 or 100.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
playbook, yeah, I think we definitely did like is it a blueprint or a carbon copy?
A blueprint is
Xerox
kind of
star
a
cells.
good word for it. Blueprint,
Yeah.
maybe a best practices book.
But yes, so um yeah, I mean it's an interesting introspection of interesting introspection of how things are, how things are happening now. So very interesting conversation with you, Don. So I guess one thing, can we ask for your very quick recap of your expert advice? Not recap, like your expert advice on how to keep things running smoothly operations wise.
Well, basically, after we're able to streamline operations and the processes, we need to have regular process audits. So it will keep us,
Yeah.
able to adjust the workflows if needed be, and it should be based on results as well. And if we think that the results are favorable, then why change things, right? But the regular process audits is really important, and that will almost cover every aspect in operations. Second is what I've learned from Penny actually, is always have a mindset of scalability. So when you do things, when you create and design processes, it should include growth. It should always include the growth mindset. And I think that should be like, the basic operational success formula for me.
So always thinking we're growing, like
Yeah.
I like the point on the process audit. I feel like some people think that, okay, I've already documented the process and that's a set it, should forget it. And as your company grows, or whether it's going up or down, some of these processes will have to be changed. Could be internal factors, could be external factors. So definitely like the process. Plus, I remember way back in Contactually when it's a simple task, right? Deleting a customer's account, a user's account.
okay.
And previously it was just a simple delete button, type the name, and that was it. And then eventually it became, before you delete, have them fill out this form, yada 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 yada. And auditing a process makes you look at your processes right now and see which ones are getting too complicated or which ones can be simplified. And that just brings I have a distinct memory of that, because sometimes people just keep on piling on processes and parts of the process and not really thinking simple.
No, there's
and
also
scalable process.
and there's also instances where you keep, like for example, in the interest of growth, if you're not auditing this, you're like, I remember this. So just the experience is recent, but having product feedback, for example, right? So I remember, so one product which is great because you get to talk to, to talk to the product team and say, this is what we think is going on. And then the odd thing is now, because it's a larger organization, you get to see like, we now have a product council. What is this meeting for? It's like, it's a once a month thing where you talk to product about improvements. And now there's a third council. It's like, at some point there's redundancy here, but it's sometimes the problem is when it's a larger organization and you have three people like all wanting the same thing, which is great. But you create the redundancies. Is like you need to point out like these things are all actually doing the same thing.
The same thing, yeah.
Just with different people, but with roughly, wanting the same outcome. So we need to get rid of that. And I understand to your point that sometimes things get complicated. The other thing that I found interesting about what you said, Don, is sometimes this is a process, but you're not listening to feedback about the process, that there's a lot of complaints regarding it, but you're not changing it. So the audit is, no, chef's kiss. I like that. I like that. And, I guess the only problem when it comes to, from organizations that are both small, and I'm going to go to when organizations are big. When it's small, the problem is maintaining the documentation is everybody's job, or whoever had the gall to start it in the first place. And then sometimes the problem is when you that's true, because you can't really afford, in the beginning to have somebody who's like, we're hiring you specifically for documentation. But when the organization is now large, sometimes you can afford the documentation team.
Yeah.
You can afford the documentation team, and now it becomes harder because you now have these people that are consistently updating these documents because that's their job, right? But sometimes they do it in such a way that they're not letting people know that this document has changed. See what break, especially when it's breaking.
Cascading the information that or there have been updates on the specific document. It's also a challenge. Yeah.
Yes, like you're doing something today and then tomorrow it's changed without. Especially if it's just breaking changes. If they're making minor changes, sure. Yeah. But when they're breaking changes, they're like, I've always felt like, by the way, we're changing how we do things. So yes, just my little take.